Good to have you again, and many thanks for keeping it Smart24 television. I'm Joram Paul Songo in here once again for The Point, where we analyze different policies. And of course, our discussion today is basically following up on a discussion that Anthony Sebale had earlier on in regards to the import and export business. That is mainly the car import and export business. So especially in Uganda, we import, I should say, for now, because it's very rare for us to export. I think it's only when the Kira EVs will be set out for export, that is when we shall be ready for the exportation of automobiles or looking at exports in the automobile industry. But besides that, when you look at the kind of discussion that we have today, still drawing analysis on the import and on the car import business in the country. And of course, we're trying to understand how best can the business owners overcome the negative trade imbalance in the sector. We have quite a number of car bonds in the country. It does look like a lucrative business, a very risky one as well, but we've seen lots of Ugandans venturing into that one, a number of car brokers as well. And to discuss more about this one, we now have a discussion or our conversations eyeing right to the taxman, who is always behind the registration and licensing of these vehicles once they are into the country, and to ensure that the businessmen are operating under the law. Joining me to discuss this and more, I have Mr. Emmanuel Kumpoja, who is the Supervisor Customs Document Processing Center, and he's in charge of the vehicles under that particular department. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers. My name once again is Emmanuel Uponja from Uganda Revenue Authority, Customs Department, and Supervisor in charge of Motor Vehicle Unit and Document Processing Center, Nakawa.
Good to have you. The mere fact that you're under the document processing, I think this is what most of the businesses in the country fear a lot, document processing. But besides that, when you look at the car importing, I don't know if you can take us through, in the eye of the taxman, how you receive vehicles. If you can just take us through the journey of these vehicles right from the port, what really happens?
Okay. Thank you so much. Imports of vehicles into the country.
Yes.
On arrival of the vehicles at the port of entry into the EAC, East African Community, that is at the port of Mombasa in Kenya, or Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, we have declarations that are made.
Yes.
And basically there are two declarations, what we call customs regimes. One is a regime, that is the process the client would choose to go through to clear the vehicle. The first regime is home consumption. That's when someone has imported a vehicle into Uganda. That person will decide to pay taxes and duties at the port of entry, at the first port of entry into the country. That is when the vehicle is at Mombasa or Dar es Salaam, and a single customs territory framework. That's the first option. And that is, we have, that's option one. The second option is warehousing transit regime or declaration, what we normally call WT8. In this case, the importer will make a declaration for the vehicles for transit into the bonded warehouses, either in Kampala or in Masaka, if they're passing through Mutukula, or in eastern part of Uganda, where we have bonded warehouses. These goods will go under warehousing regime on arrival at the bonded warehouses. And we have categories of vehicles whose warehousing regime is restricted, where we are not supposed to bring them to the bonds. And these are basically vehicles that are 13 years old and above. If you recall, in 2018, the Traffic and Road Safety Act 1998 was amended to take care of prohibitions of vehicles that are 15 years old and above. Okay. And for that case, it means vehicles that are 15 years and above are not allowed into the country. They are prohibited. So East African Community Customs Management Regulations gives the Commissioner powers to restrict which goods are supposed to be warehoused. So we have those two categories of vehicles that are 13 years and above. That will mean 13 years old and 14 years. Their taxes are paid at the first entry of the port. That's at Mombasa or Dar es Salaam. These ones are not allowed in to come under warehousing regime. So any other vehicle can be cleared either under home consumption when they're still at Mombasa, or they go under the second regime of warehousing transit, then they move to transit up to the bonded warehouses. And thereafter enter into a warehousing regime. And after warehousing, the client will choose what to do with the vehicles. We have the period for warehousing. The vehicle is supposed to be warehoused within a period of 6 months. It's not supposed to be extended up to 6 months. The maximum period for warehousing is 6 months. So within the 6 months, the importer has either has to pay taxes for the vehicles, or if these are car dealers, they could be having a better option for sale of these vehicles to other countries. For example, maybe someone from Southern Sudan or from DRC may have interest in these vehicles. So there will be option for either declaring them in Uganda for home consumption again after warehousing, or re-export. That is re-export of those bonded vehicles. That means the vehicle will be re-exported to either to Southern Sudan or to DRC or any other neighboring country, depending on the arrangement between the seller here and the buyer.
When you look at vehicle entry in the country, there is a belief, I would not call it, or maybe rumor, that at times vehicles at the border are charged at the cost, and then they have to get charged still once they come in here. How true is that? I don't know, because once you listen to some of the car brokers, that is what they will tell you. They will tell you why the car is so expensive. We import the car at 6 million Ugandan shillings. You reach the border, those are more 6 million Ugandan shillings. After paying that is at, for example, at the port, clearing at the port. Then once it comes into the country, URI also charges more money, close to 6 million Ugandan shillings. So from the 6 million, you add most 12 million to a total of 18 million. Then you add the other money for, let's say, for your personal gain and profits and stuff. That is how a vehicle reaches at 25 million and so. So I need to really know, is there that issue of double taxation, that vehicles are taxed at the cost and again taxed once they are in here before they're out for sale?
Thank you. I need to give this clarification on vehicles that pay taxes at the first port of entry. It's taxed once. We don't have a double taxation that you tax it at Mombasa or Dar es Salaam and again at the border or within inland bonded stations. That's not true. A vehicle that has paid taxes at Mombasa or at Dar es Salaam will be cleared from document processing center in Akawa, and before the release of this vehicle from the port, they will get a number plate. It will have been registered. So the vehicle will move from Mombasa or Dar es Salaam with a cargo movement document. That will be under Kenya Revenue Authority's control, because these goods are moving within their territory. So they will be monitoring this vehicle until it reaches the border, say Busia or Malaba or Mutukula. So this vehicle will reach at the border and will receive the number plate, because they already have number plate. And thereafter it will be cleared at the arrival of the border and handed over to the owner, because in many cases there are drivers who pick these vehicles from the port and bring them to the country. So these vehicles pay taxes once from the first port of entry. But those that come on transit, they will pay taxes when they reach the bonded warehouses. depending on the choice of the importer, of the dealer. If they are to sell them into the country, they will pay taxes and get registered in the country. So it is only single taxes paid on the vehicle, not a double taxation.
Just single. And of course, before we even get into these rates of these vehicles, I need to know something. What I've come to notice is that most of the vehicles that come into the country do come via land.
True.
I should agree. Because it's only a few people who only order for these vehicles to come through air, which is also more expensive. Before even going to those charges of air, I need to know first. There was a time we were living in Kenya with our journalist, this journalist kind of work, and we passed through Malaba. Now, I got to realize there was a gentleman, there were gentlemen who had vehicles that were coming via the land. But these kind of vehicles were not on, let's say, what you could say, truck. They were being driven. I think there were like 3 Harriers. So in my, because they did some clearing at the border, what really happens at the border once such vehicles that are being driven automatically just on the ground, being driven, have no number plates yet? How do you deal with that in regards to registration? Because they come into the country. When we asked the gentlemen, they were actually saying we are bringing them for sale.
Yes, that is that's the second category of regime I was talking of.
Okay.
That is the warehousing transit declarations of those vehicles. So that means those vehicles were declared at the port of entry in East African Community. That is at Mombasa. At Mombasa, that are coming in under transit. So they move under transit document. Upon arrival,
so it's like they are now a typical transit commodity.
Exactly, in transit. Or upon arrival at the border, they will go through the border clearance formalities and forward it to the bonded stations where they are destined, either to Nakawa or Jinja, Mbale, or any of those bonds of their choice. Yes, So that is how they will move. So it means they are bringing them into the country. Then maybe look for buyers. It's maybe between me and you or another person who would need to buy them and would buy and pay taxes on them. Either the person who's buying to pay taxes or the seller will sell to the client upon payment of taxes on the vehicle. So depending on the arrangement they have with the client.
All right. Let's look at some of the vehicles that come through the country by air. That's by plane. Because most of these are personal vehicles, if I'm not mistaken. And I've come to realize, I was once told that once you see a number plate, which is red in a private vehicle, then that means it is more likely to have been imported on a special order from maybe someone who ordered it online and it is coming through into the country. I want to know, how do you track those ones now?
When you talk of red number plates,
no, the vehicles that come through air.
That come through air.
Because most of them are not ideally heading direct to the bonds.
No, at the airport we have customs at Entebbe. So still, those vehicles are declared to customs. So as either home consumption and they pay taxes when the vehicle is still at the port at Entebbe. Or they will also make a transit declaration to move them to the bond in Kampala. So there's still a choice for between what the client wants to do. If he has the taxes to pay there and then, he will pay at Entebbe. If he doesn't have the money or he's still looking for the buyer for the vehicle, we'll bring them to the bond. So that's the same arrangement with the other land borders. Yes, yeah.
Now, besides that, let's dive into the issue to do with the car rates, the rates of the vehicles. How do you rate, for example, if you are paying, for example, if a vehicle is being imported into the country, what are the charges? I'm looking at this. I don't know how how the charges vary, because we have vehicles that are, for example, passenger service funds, the taxes and everything. We've got, for example, Costas, those are 28-seaters and above. We also have personal vehicles that are either 7-seaters or less, or 5-seaters or something. How do you charge these vehicles, or do you also charge them according to the date of their manufacturing? Take us through that as well.
Okay, thank you. We have different tax heads. Maybe the tax categories that are levied on imported vehicles. The first tax head is import duty on imported vehicle. The vehicles here are varying. It could be a vehicle for carrying persons. The passenger vehicles could be the coaster, or private cars. Import duty on such a vehicle is 25% of the value. Okay, 25% of the value is the import duty. That is the import duty is the duty levied on the goods by the virtue of its importation. The second category of tax is the value-added tax, which is 18% of the value on that vehicle. The other category is withholding tax, withholding tax of 6% on the value of the vehicle. The fourth category of levy is called environmental levy. Environmental levy will vary depending on the year of manufacture of the vehicle. If the vehicle is between 0 to 8 years old from the year of manufacture, environmental levy is 0% of the value. So there's no environmental levy on that vehicle. If the vehicle is 9 years old or more, environmental levy is 50% of the value. That is a vehicle designed for carrying persons, for carrying persons. The other category of levy or the duty is infrastructure levy, infrastructure. That's 1.5% of the value. So those are the tax heads for vehicles that are designed for carrying persons. Persons. These are passenger vehicles. Irrespective of the carrying capacity, whether it is a 5-seater, 14-seater, 28-seater, those are the different tax heads. The other category of vehicle is vehicles designed for carrying goods.
These trucks.
These trucks, the elves and so on, for carrying goods. The import duty varies depending on on the gross vehicle weight. Gross vehicle weight. If these are designed for carrying goods. If the gross vehicle weight means the net weight for that vehicle and its load, how much it can carry, the maximum load. If the net weight, for example, is 4 tons and it can carry a maximum load of 3 tons, that means the gross vehicle weight is 7 metric tons. So now the import duty will vary depending on the gross vehicle weight. If the gross vehicle weight is 5 metric tons and below, import duty 25%, like the way we had for vehicles for carrying persons. If the gross vehicle weight is above 5 but up to 20, these ones are bigger. Import duty is 10% of the value. And for those that are above 20, import duty is 0% of the value. So these ones are allowed in to promote the transport sector into Uganda. That is according to importation of vehicles in Uganda. Then VAT, as I mentioned earlier, value-added tax is applicable on all those categories. That's 18%. Withholding tax is applicable unless the importer is exempted under the Income Tax Act from withholding tax. But if you're not exempted, you pay withholding tax of 6% of the value on those vehicles. The environmental levy will also vary depending on the age of the vehicle. If it is between 0 to 8 years from the year of manufacture, environmental levy is 0%. 0% on goods carrying vehicles. So those that are 9 and above, environmental levy is 20% of the value. Then we also infrastructure levy. It will either be 0 if there's no import duty. Like for the category of 20, where the gross vehicle weight is 20 metric tons and above 20 metric tons, infrastructure levy is 0%. But where there is an import duty of 10 or 25%, they will pay infrastructure levy. So those are the tax heads. Then we have these other categories of vehicles. The trailers. The trailers, the semi-trailers. Those ones pay import duty of 10%. They pay VAT and they pay withholding tax. We have tractor heads. Okay, we have tractor heads. These are very key in our transport sector. They pay 0% import duty. There is no import duty on such vehicles. This is a policy that the government of Uganda brought forward so that to promote the transport sector in Uganda. So these ones are levied 0% import duty. Other vehicles could be specialized vehicles like the forklifts, okay, road sweepers. These are firefighting vehicles. These ones, import duty on them is 0%. They don't pay import duty. So those are specialized vehicles. No import duty is levied on them.
Okay. And of course, for the viewers out there, as we try to analyze on the issue to do with the importation of, on the car importation business in the country, there are quite a number of car brokers and, of course, car bonds, if I'm to use the better word. Quite a number of car bonds in the country, and the business in there has been one of those that is actually looked at as a lucrative business, which is growing bigger. But most especially, the reason when you ask most of the car dealers as to why they sell these vehicles so expensively is because they will actually give you an answer that it's because of the fact that they pay or remit quite huge amounts in regards to the taxation. Well, when you hear it from the side of the Uganda Revenue Authority, you get to realize that there is nothing like double taxation, as some of them tend to put it out. As we discuss more of this, we're going into a break, but when we return, I want us to look at the issue of the importation of vehicles that is in regards to 15 years and above. There was a ban there, but we shall hint a little bit on that, and then we try to understand the issue of efficiency and transparency at the Revenue Authority as they try to make sure that these taxes are paid and vehicles are cleared before being sold off in the country. You're still watching The Point and Smart24 TV. We'll be right back after the break.